Uh-huh. I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods. Yeah, one in particular, I'm just a messenger. Let me just pass on the rock. Browning, Brunning, Bruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you, you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box. And you cannot compare them at all, so don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy round table, fantasy round table. Yeah. Fantasy round table, come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table. Woo. Fantasy round table, come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Roundtable podcast. It is a Friday in June. I've successfully made it back from Alaska, and Dennis is with me now. I think Matt will be with us in just a little bit. But Dennis, how have your last couple of weeks been?
You know, it's been a whirlwind. The boys' baseball team has been getting rained out right and left as they try to work their way through the playoffs. They finished second in their league. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. is the championship game. And I got to say, the boy is peaking at the right time. He came out 2 games ago, the first playoff game, his first at bat. He jacked a triple. Now, let me mind you, so I'm old and fat. I think I could have had a triple. He hit the ball so far. Hit stand-up triple. I think if he was any faster, it would have been an inside the park home run. Played a really good game. Last night, another good game. Two for 3 from the field, from the plate. Hit the ball or played the field well. Championship game is tomorrow against the only undefeated team in the league. Number 1 versus number 2. And the other team has a pitcher, hardest thrower in the league. And, you know, we've been talking. I've been working his psyche for a week because we expected this to be the likely turnout. And I'm like, in the last time he faced him, like he never got the bat off his shoulder. Kid throws so hard. He was like, I'm like, dude, I don't know what to tell you other than I'm not sure why you're not swinging because he throws strikes. You don't need to be worried about getting hit. He's the best pitcher in the league. He throws hardest and he gets the ball over the plate. So as we sit right now, I think I've talked him into going up there. I'm like, look, man, you just got to swing hard that first pitch. Go for it. Make contact. It'll go. So, you know, it's on for tomorrow. I mean, they beat us pretty bad in season.
Well, hopefully you'll be able to turn things around. Well, you said it's been a hectic schedule for you. It's been we've had quite a bit of news here from the NFL too, as camps and stuff are wrapping up before they kind of take their break for big training camp. But it's been just about a week now since Dalvin Cook was officially released by the Vikings, something that had been rumored for seemingly months on end. He still has not signed with anyone. But Dennis, what do you think about his release, and where do you kind of hope he ends up?
You know, I'm not sure where I hope he ends up. It feels like, you know, the foregone conclusion seems to be Miami. And he can go there and win. He goes there, he's the best back on the team. You know, there's talk about Buffalo. He'll be the best back on the team if he goes there as well. But you know what? They cut him. He was supposed to make $10.4 million last year. He wants to be paid what he thinks his value is. And coincidentally, yesterday, or maybe it was Wednesday, the Los Angeles Rams restructured Cooper Kupp's contract and freed up, coincidentally, $10.4 million. Who'd have thought it? I mean, I think the Rams, you know, the Rams kind of remind me of the Tennessee Titans. They're an extremely well-coached team that maybe can do something if everything goes well. You know, Vrabel, he's like, I don't care if I win 17 1-point games. Just let me get there. The Rams, they kind of want to do that too. Aaron Donald's going to need to bounce back. The defense seems to be greatly weakened. They lost Bobby Wagner and Jalen Ramsey. There's a lot of work to do, but they're getting Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford back. Going to LA doesn't seem like the I want to win move as much as it seems like I want to make money. And yeah, we have a shot to make the playoffs maybe, but let's see how this goes. I still think probably he ends up in Miami because it's home. Florida is home.
Matt, you have any hopes for Dalvin Cook?
No, not really. I'll be intrigued to see where he goes. I still think he's got a little bit left in the tank. Obviously, I don't think he is what he was 4 years ago, but I imagine he's going to a contender. So Miami makes sense. Buffalo makes sense. Dallas makes sense. I don't know. I don't know that the Rams make sense. I don't think they're going to be a very good team.
Cap space for our next free agent.
Yeah, I have a feeling they're probably going to be pretty bad. So I think, but if whatever contender he ends up on, I think he infinitely makes that running back room better. He's still one of the best 32 running backs in the league. So wherever he goes, I think he's going to be just fine.
If it will be funny, like if he signs with the Rams, all those Zach Evans truthers are going to burst into tears. Yeah. Well, I mentioned this just a minute ago, but DeAndre Hopkins made a visit to the Patriots, said he's in no hurry to sign anywhere. Matt, do you have any hopes for DeAndre or any feeling toward where he might end up?
I know a lot of people were hoping that it was going to end up being Buffalo or Kansas City. It doesn't seem like either one of those teams are really in the running. I'm kind of torn on Hopkins. It really feels like he's going to go wherever he's going to get the biggest bag. Like he wants to get paid. If I were Hopkins, I'd be going to a team that could win me a Super Bowl. It's something he does not have. And it sounds like the teams that can really pay him are probably not going to win that either. So he's at that point in his life where he's got to make that decision, because as great as he is and as someone who I think is going to go, I still think he's going to be a phenomenal player for 3 or 4 more years. I think he is going to be, his game, I think, will age gracefully. But if he chooses to go to a team where he's going to get paid the most, he's not going to win that Super Bowl. So I'll be curious to see where he goes. I still hope that he ends up in Cleveland at some point. I just think him and the Deshaun Watson, obviously, narrative would be great. Having him back with him, I think he'd be a great compliment to Amari Cooper. He doesn't have to be the one anymore, and that takes some of the defense off of Amari Cooper. So I would love it, but we'll see. It sounds like I said he's going somewhere where he can get paid the most money. So good luck.
Although Hopkins going to New England would probably make you feel about the same as Dalvin Cook signing with the Rams.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you know what? It might be good for fantasy. I mean, Mac Jones probably target the hell.
It'd be
out
great
of
for Mac Jones.
Yeah,
he's like,
I
have
think
3 guys.
For Mac Jones, it's a guy. It gives him like a reliable receiver. I think who it really helps if he goes to New England is Tyquan Thornton. I think it really
helps Juju Smith-Schuster too, because we saw him have his best seasons when he had Antonio Brown out there.
Yeah, Juju's going to get replaced by Gesicki, I think, especially if Hopkins goes to New England. But Thornton provides something that nobody else on the team does, and Hopkins pulls coverage up towards the line, and it gets Thornton. Now, will he catch 75 passes? No. But if he goes 45 or 50 passes at 17, 18 yards a clip, then Thornton all of a sudden becomes valuable, making some big plays. If he goes to Tennessee, he's the best receiver on the team. If he goes to New England,
he might be the only receiver on the team if he goes to Tennessee.
He's the best receiver in New England. If he goes to Kansas City, he's the best wide receiver on the team. And to me, if I want to win, I'm going to Kansas City. He's not going to Buffalo, because Buffalo and Stephon Diggs basically said, look, if I'm your boy, stop flirting with that other guy. And so to me, it ends up being a situation where Gabe Davis wins if he doesn't go to Buffalo, because they didn't really do much else. And Davis played injured most of last year. I'm not by any stretch thinking Davis is going for 70 and 1,000, but he'll be the number 2 guy there.
Well, our last bit of news that I thought I'd throw out there before we do our power rankings is we've gotten Stephon Diggs with the Bills, J.K. Dobbins now with the Ravens, Josh Jacobs, who hasn't signed his tender with the Raiders, and Saquon Barkley, who has yet to sign his tender with the Giants. 4 players, pretty high-profile guys for fantasy, high-profile guys for their team that don't seem to be very happy at the moment. Dennis, I'll start with you. Do any of them concern you as we head to the season?
I'd like to think that they watched what happened with Le'Veon Bell, and they're like, that's probably not good. Because Bell was, I think, every bit as good as Jacobs, Dobbins, Barkley. And then he pouted, sat out a year, and was never the same. I know he had a few years and some hits on him and was probably going to start to decline anyways. But sitting out his 26-year-old season did not help him. And Dobbins is still younger. Jacobs is still pretty young. But Dobbins going into year 4, Jacobs into year 5. Barkley, he's going into year 6. So these are guys that if they want to get paid, they're going to need to play. And if they want to get paid next year, they're going to need to play this year, because sitting out a year, the price just goes down. Diggs, we see this from Diggs, every 12 to 18 months. They started flirting with Hopkins. Diggs felt threatened. Diggs basically said, look, he's insecure. He's a needy, clingy boyfriend is what Diggs is. And he saw his girl talking to somebody at work, and she's like, I was just telling him how to fill the ice cream machine. And Diggs is like, no, you weren't. That took too long. It don't take that long to tell him how to fill the ice cream machine. So Diggs made his point. They're like, look, we'll back off. We're good with Davis and whatnot. We drafted Dalton Kincaid.
They shouldn't be good with Davis.
Yeah, I'm not worried as much about Jacobs and Barkley. I think something will happen with Barkley. Jacobs is going to be a free agent. I have no, delusions of grandeur with him. He's not going to be back with the Raiders next year. He's good enough to land on a team. I don't know where, but he'll be somewhere. Like he may end up, unfortunately, getting like the Damian Harris treatment and only get like $1 million to go play for someone. That's just kind of the life of the running back now at this point. Dobbins is the interesting one to me. I know he had the really bad injury, but he hasn't played much. He doesn't have a lot of work on his legs outside of the injury, and I could see Baltimore bringing him back if he doesn't ask for a massive contract, which I think will depend on how good a year he has this year. He's the interesting one to me because he's still young, still has some miles on his legs, I believe. I would be intrigued to see what happens with him at the end of the season. But Jacobs, like I said, I think he's no doubt a free agent next year. Barkley's so talented that even if the Giants don't, he's going to play this year. So if the Giants end up not picking him up next year, I think he'll land somewhere. But I mean, I just think this is the way of the running back now until the NFL shows us they value these guys again. This is what we're going to look at every single year. The litmus test will be next year with Jonathan Taylor, who most people think is the best running back in the NFL. And in my opinion, a generational talent. Will Indy re-sign him? Because he's likely one of the best running backs, or could be one of the best running backs we've seen, at least of this generation here. And if they don't re-sign him, I think that's really telling that we should honestly be worried about the running back position moving forward.
Yeah, I think the running back ones don't worry me as much as Diggs, just from the standpoint that we've seen him force his way out of one team in the past. I wouldn't be surprised if this lingers, if that happens again. And wide receivers, as you mentioned, have a little bit more value and have a little bit more appeal. But from the flip side too, I'm sorry, but I'm not impressed with Buffalo's offensive playmakers. And if you took Diggs out of that, I don't know how great we feel about the wide receivers. I think running backs, though, you're right. Running backs are continuously upset, but look at even right now, Dalvin Cook hasn't signed. Fournette hasn't signed anywhere. He's been out there. Ezekiel Elliott got set free, hasn't signed anywhere. I think we're sort of moved past them giving those big contracts to running backs because it didn't pay out very well for teams in the last round. I think that's why they franchise tagged a couple of those guys, because they were happy to hold on to them for a year and figure out what they're going to do. That brings us to our look at power rankings today. We're going to go through 32-1. We start our previews. It's hard to believe it's already preview time, but we will start our team previews starting next week, because that's how many weeks we have before kicking off the NFL season. Under 100 days. I know everybody's got to be getting excited. This is kind of our last lull between that and the start of training camp, which comes up just about a month from now. So getting pretty exciting. Matt, I will let you kick it off. Why don't you give us 32-21? We'll take it in 3 chunks: the bottom 12, the middle 10, and the top 10.
All right, so at 32 for me right now is the Arizona Cardinals. I honestly don't think they even know which way they're going. They still talk like they might be a team that's going to be able to rebuild after 1 year of not having Kyler Murray. I don't think that's the case. I think we're looking at a full teardown, full rebuild, and I don't think it's coming in. They don't, in my opinion, have anyone to build around. I don't even think you want to build around Kyler Murray, so this team is in a really bad place. They're likely going to be down here at 32 for the next couple of years. I battled with the next 3. Excuse me. I went ahead and put the Texans here because I do like the fact that they have CJ Stroud and Will Anderson. I think that's a very solid core to build around. I do think DeMeco Ryans has a chance to be a very good coach. We've actually seen, kind of surprisingly, this Kyle Shanahan tree has actually been pretty good in the NFL with the guys who have branched off from his coaching staff and gone on to coach. DeMeco Ryans kind of had worked with Salah and had taken over the defensive stuff, but we've seen the 49ers really good defense over the past couple of years. In my opinion, Robert Salah has been very good for the New York Jets. He was a guy that I wanted the Browns to go get before they went and got Kevin Stefanski. Goodness, excuse me. So I think that DeMeco Ryans, CJ Stroud, Will Anderson is a great core to build around, but that's really all they have. Would not be surprised if they take a massive jump forward next year, even though they don't have a first-round pick. But I could see this team being better than what I currently think they are. 30 for me is the Los Angeles Rams. I think they have delusions of grandeur. Matt, you just talked about, and Dennis, you brought up, they cleared money. And if they bring Dalvin Cook in, I mean, for what, guys? You're not winning a Super Bowl this year. It's not happening. Matt Stafford is beyond the back nine. He's done. You're going to probably end up having to play Stetson Bennett at some point this year. Your offense revolves around one wide receiver in Cooper Kupp. Your offensive line is in shambles. Your defense was really kind of being held together by, duct tape and gum with what Aaron Donald was able to do. And he's the only really returning player because you shipped Jalen Ramsey off. So your secondary is not that good anymore. Not that Jalen Ramsey was good last year. On top of that, I know that they've got a first-round pick next year, but they have not built any youth. They've been that team that's gone out and gotten a ton of veterans. And I think that they're paying for it now, and they will pay for it moving forward. 29 for me is the New Orleans Saints. Same argument. I would not be surprised if Dennis Allen's not the coach there anymore. They tried to go in to compete last year. We're not necessarily a good team. I do think Derek Carr is an upgrade at the quarterback position, and maybe he'll be good for them. But overall, I just don't think this is a very good team. Don't have a lot of really good young pieces on defense. They have some interesting pieces on offense, but I think they're kind of heading in the wrong direction. At 28, I have the Washington Commanders. I don't know why I tried to combine Washington and the Commanders. The Washington Commanders. No starting quarterback, offense, okay offensive line. Really, the mainstay pieces on your offense is Terry McLaurin, who he's getting up there in age. I do like the defense. But they had to decline Chase's option because he can't stay healthy, who I thought was really going to be the key to making that defense really go. Their linebackers and cornerbacks are starting to age out a little bit, and they're not even in the window to really compete, win the division, especially with as tough as that division is, and possibly even make the playoffs. So I think they're kind of fading downwards as of now. 27, the Raiders. I mean, what else you need to say? Josh McDaniels is Denver Broncoing this all up again, and in the same division. We don't even know what's going to happen with Jimmy Garoppolo. It sounds like dude could not play this year, and he's going to head back to some other team, and they're going to end up having to start Aiden O'Connell. That's not pretty. The Buccaneers probably should have been lower for me, but I just like the veterans on this team. I mean, there's a realistic shot. Mike Evans isn't with this team anymore. Who knows where Chris Godwin could go? The Buccaneers could arguably be 31 next year. This is also a team, aging vets. They're relying on Baker Mayfield to be their quarterback, or Kyle Trask, which is not. If you think Baker Mayfield is bad, just wait till you see Kyle Trask play football. It's really bad right there, and I just don't think the Buccaneers are in for any kind of success moving forward. 25, I have the Titans, and I thought about moving them up even more. They've got some really good pieces on defense, good offensive line. They have Derrick Henry. The biggest issue, honestly, I have with the Titans is the quarterback position. Outside of that, they're kind of good everywhere. Like they are okay at wide receiver. In my opinion, they're good at running back with Derrick Henry. They're good. They have a good offensive line. They have an overall good defense. And in my opinion, Mike Vrabel is a very good head coach. To be able to take a team that arguably many of us in the industry have said is going to be last in that division or second last in the division for like the past 4 or 5 years and consistently put them in the playoffs, beat the Patriots at Bill Belichick's high, and with Ryan Tannehill, like the Tennessee Titans are actually a good team. And I think because of that and Mike Vrabel, they're going to have a good year this year. But we know, not just for fantasy, for the NFL, you have to have that quarterback, and they don't have that, in my opinion. So that is why they dropped down here. But I think you could argue with them being higher. And I'm going to make that same argument for the Packers. I think LaFleur is a good coach, really good defense. The defense has taken a small step back every year the past 3 years, but I do think their defense is still really good. Good offensive line, good weapons, but we don't know if Jordan Love is the quarterback, they'll shoot up these rankings next year. Right now, I have questions. I don't know if he's the answer, so they have to be down here. At 23, I have the Falcons. I think they've got a really good offense, interesting pieces on defense. I like Arthur Smith as a coach. I think Desmond Ridder is going to be better than most, but I don't think he's a franchise quarterback. But they could be an intriguing team that does very well this year, which is why I have them up here. The Panthers, I think I'm too low on the Panthers. I don't remember. Never mind. I see where you two have them. But I still think I'm too low on the Panthers. Arguably a top 10 offensive line. I think Bryce Young is going to be an absolute stud for them. The wide receivers are a weakness. Tight end is a weakness. Running back is a weakness. But they have a pretty good defense as well. They went all out 1 year in the draft, building up that defense. I think they add a couple more pieces. They could be a serious contender and honestly lock up the NFC South because it's not a pretty division. But I don't think that they do it this year. They could. I am a little bit higher on them than most because of that. And at 21 is the New England Patriots. Maybe this is me just fooling myself with Bill Belichick because I don't think they have anything. Their defense took a step back last year. It was not good at all. Mac Jones took a massive step back after a really good rookie season. I don't know who we're relying on offense. When we just talked about it, Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, I know he was okay for the Chiefs last year. Maybe just missed 1,000 yards, so he was good. But I don't think he's leading this offense as a wide receiver. We used to count on these tight ends. Can't count on tight ends. We're really banking on Ramondre Stevenson being the offense. Like, the Patriots probably should be a lot lower, but I guess maybe I'm still believing a little bit in Bill Belichick. So I'm going to put them here at 21.
All right, so I don't think I understood the assignment because I kind of ranked them based on power rankings for fantasy assets. And so I have the Cardinals at 32. I agree with what Matt was saying. I would any of us be surprised if Kyler Murray doesn't play a down this year? You know, and if he doesn't play a down, I know his contract is cumbersome. They're going to be bad. Now, they're going to throw the ball a lot, regardless of who the quarterback is. So Hollywood Brown is going to be a great fantasy asset this year. If their defense does anything at all, you know, maybe James Conner is a flex-worthy running back. He's the only show in town. I feel like if Kareem Hunt wants to make the most money, he's going to go to Arizona because I feel like he's better than Corey Clement and Keontae Ingram and I don't know who the hell else they have there in Arizona currently. But if they don't play Kyler this year, I don't think Kyler's their quarterback next year, and they're going to bring in Caleb Williams. They're going to have at least 2 years to get out of Kyler's cap hell he'll put him in by cutting or trading him. So it's going to be problematic. I mean, Houston at 31. I love CJ Stroud. That's my Buckeye roots here. But Dameon Pierce was a 4th round draft pick. He's a replacement level back that at some point is going to be on the outs. Singletary's going to be catching passes there. And I feel like what a lot of fantasy managers aren't taking into account, there's probably going to be a 50-50 split. Because as much as you don't maybe want to admit it, Singletary's better than Rex Burkhead, who was the number 2 back last year. He's better than Dario Ogunbowale, who was the number 2B last year or whatever. Their receivers are a lot of question marks. They got Robert Woods, who's clearly lost a step, but they have, the clone of Robert Woods and John Mechie there. A couple guys in Xavier Hutchinson, Tank Dell, Nico Collins that may or may not have some potential, but we got to see some stuff. Tennessee, I like Treylon Burks. I think Derrick Henry still probably has a couple productive years, but if they don't, and Chigokonkwo looks good. Will he do it again this year and establish himself as a real fantasy threat? It's a great question, but I think we're at the end of the Ryan Tannehill career. They don't have a ton of other fantasy-worthy players. I know a lot of people like Tyjae Spears. We'll see what happens there. But I don't think Spears poses a threat to Derrick Henry. I have the Rams at 29. As you were talking, Matt, I was jockeying some of my teams around. Initially, I had the Rams a little bit higher because I'm like, well, they're getting Matthew Stafford back. They're getting Cooper Kupp back. Tyler Higbee's still there. He can be productive. Cam Akers looks like he's going to be the guy with Kyron Williams or somebody else who's Zach Evans spelling him. But, Akers' Achilles may be getting better, but, the recovery from the Achilles didn't improve his vision any. So Stafford, I think that there's definitely concerns about whether or not the back can hold up. I think Cooper Kupp's going to be fine. I think Kupp will be fine regardless of who the quarterback is. And, it's a crapshoot as to who becomes the true number 2 receiver there. I like the Carolina Panthers a lot, but like Matt said, there's nothing there as far as wide receivers. An old Adam Thielen, a workout warrior, Jonathan Mingo, never was Terrace Marshall. Does anybody remember Laviska Shenault? Who knows what's going to happen there? I love the opportunity for Miles Sanders. The O-line isn't bad, but I wasn't super high on Bryce Young, so I've got the Panthers at 28. Now, could the Panthers next year be 10 spots higher because things played out and they're actually good and the offense is productive? It could happen, but this year they're at 28. I have the Tampa Bay Bucks at 27. I'm not sold on Baker or Trask. Baker's the Josh Gordon of quarterbacks. I mean, he just keeps getting shots and, people buy back in. They see, a good throw and they're like, oh, he's going to make it back. And I think it's really, really sad for Mike Evans, who is sitting here with the chance to go 10 for 10 in 1,000-yard seasons. And he's going to have to do it with his declining skills and a Baker Mayfield, Kyle Trask combo at quarterback. So I feel pretty comfortable that that Mike Evans probably isn't going to get that 1,000 yards this year. A lot of people are high on Rachaad White in Tampa, but the truth is they're not. They're probably going to throw the ball 150 times less this year now that Brady's gone. And I don't know that White's going to get all those carries. He's going to lose some touches in the passing game. and he wasn't terribly efficient in the passing game or the running game. So while I like White, he may spring up and do something. I do have some concerns there. I have the Patriots at 26. It's the Ramondre Stevens, Mac Jones show. I think Juju's on his way out. Who else is there? Tyquan Thornton, Mike Gesicki. Maybe Gesicki bounces back and does something. Signing DeAndre Hopkins would definitely move them up. I do expect a bounce back for the offense after the Joe Judge, Matt Patricia debacle from last season. So Bill O'Brien should do something. But I also think it's going to take at least a year to get everybody comfortable and to get some higher quality assets, fantasy assets on that team in the receiving game. At that point, I feel like Stevenson will be near the end of his career at the on the New England Patriots. I have the Raiders at 25, based solely on how good Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams are. They've got Hooper and Mayer at tight end. They do have Hunter Renfrow. They signed Jacoby Myers, could potentially, but the quarterback situation could be a complete and utter train wreck. If they're starting Aiden O'Connell or Brian Hoyer, it wouldn't surprise me if Devontae Adams retired. At 24, the New Orleans Saints, they've got a little better quarterback situation than the Raiders because they have the Raiders' old quarterback. But I do like Juwan Johnson. I do like Chris Olave. Fingers crossed that Mike Thomas makes it through the season. But I like Rashid Shaheed a lot. He's a very dynamic downfield passing threat. And then Jamal Williams, do I expect him to get 1,100 yards and 17 touchdowns this year? No, I don't. But I do expect him to get double-digit touchdowns, 800 yards, easily within reach. That would be a productive season for him. Kendre Miller, we expect Kamara to get suspended. Miller, I think, is going to step right in and be an admirable fill-in. And I think Miller is going to be the successor to Alvin Kamara in the Alvin Kamara role. So if Kamara ends up being done after this year, I think they don't miss a beat with Miller. At 23, I've got the Commanders. I'm a lot higher on the Commanders. I'm conflicted about how much I believe in Sam Howell, but I do think that the trio of Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, and Curtis Samuel are a really good wide receiver trio. Samuel will get a little bit of work out of the backfield. Brian Robinson is steady as she goes and not spectacular. It looks like I heard today on Sirius XM that Washington is making overtures towards Kareem Hunt. I think that should tell us all we really need to know about what they really think about Antonio Gibson. They're like, yeah, this is our guy until we get someone better. And yes, we're looking for someone better. And if Kareem Hunt at this stage of his career is better than Antonio Gibson, I have concerns. I'm starting to not believe Ron Rivera. 22, I've got the Packers. I'm not sold that Jordan Love is the answer, but we've got a first-year quarterback with some ability. They liked him enough to draft him in the first round. He looked a lot better last year when he played than he did the first couple of years, and they've spent a lot of draft capital the last two seasons on receivers. They got to hit a couple of them, don't they? All seven of them can't miss, can they? So they drafted two tight ends this year, and Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, RB2 and a flex-worthy / bye-week fill-in for Dillon. They have decent fantasy assets, and I've got the Seahawks at 21. I'm not sold Geno makes it through the contract he's on, but they have weapons at running back, weapons at wide receiver, and I'm not afraid to draft those weapons even with Geno Smith.
Okay, well, I'll get mine. I did mine pretty well based on how I think they're going to finish this year, because that's usually what we're looking at. I've actually run a couple of my playoff scenarios and kind of looked at things. I also have the Cardinals at 32. I think that's possible they end up with the number 1 overall pick. I'm not going to belabor it, but I don't see Murray going in there either. They don't have great setups across the roster. I think there's some work to be done. Houston, I have them at 31. I think they might be fun to watch at times. I like some of the young pieces. It's going to take some time, I think, for them to come together. And that's the same way I feel about the Green Bay Packers, who I actually have the lowest of all three of us at number 30. They were 8-9 last year with Aaron Rodgers. I think there's going to be some growing pains when you talk about no receivers that have any experience beyond their rookie year. And, rookies at tight end, they have some experienced running backs, but they've lost some pieces. They've lost some veteran leadership. And I think everyone in their division got better around them. I'm lower than you guys on the Commanders too, not that much lower than that, but I have them at 29. I think this might be the year that things finally come off. The wheels kind of come off the bus. They finally have a new owner that's about to get sworn in. I think there will be a lot of changes this upcoming off season. I have the Titans at 28. I think they have holes everywhere. They struggled last year to a 7-10, I think it was, season. I don't think they're going to be a lot better than that. 27, I have the Indianapolis Colts. I'm interested. I think it's going to be a little bit of a slow process developing Anthony Richardson. I think for them and the team I have above them, 26, the Panthers, they are also going to be teams that are fun to watch at times, that have some sparks, but probably need a couple of years to mature. We saw this with the Detroit Lions. For a couple of years, they have been really fun to watch at times. They've been competitive at times. They have some good players, but just not all putting it together. Number 25, I have the Rams. I still think they have some good players, and they're going to put up some fight, but they have no depth, and they also – I think they're one of these teams. There's a few of these teams that are in this section and in the section above that probably need to look at rebuilding, but it seems like they're trying to hang on and compete, and I just don't think they get there. The Seahawks, they had a good season last year, but they started fading down the stretch. I don't know that I think that they're going to be competitive in the playoff race. We thought they were going to struggle last year, and they surprised us, so maybe they'll do it again. I have the Raiders at 23. I think they have some great pieces, but they have some huge questions, particularly at quarterback and at coach, and it's hard to win without that. 22, I have the Saints. A lot of my feelings is that the NFC South is going to be similar to how it was last year, where all of these teams have their moments and they're all pretty bunched together in records. None of them really, that great record-wise. They're all going to be interesting to watch. I'm not sure that I'm like you guys. I'm not sure Dennis Allen is the answer long-term there. Number 21, I have the Atlanta Falcons. I think they have one of the better young rosters. They were doing really good at the first part of last season. They lost momentum in the back half. I think Desmond Ridder will be just fine. I think they've added some more pieces. They have a great backfield combination, and I think that's going to be good enough to keep them in the playoff race to the end of the season, because I don't think anyone runs away in the NFC South. Dennis, why don't you give us your soft middle, 20-11?
So I've got the Colts at 20. Jonathan Taylor, coming off an injury, missed time last year, RB 33. I think he's still a top 3, top 4 running back. I like Pittman and Pierce. I think the fit with Anthony Richardson for both of them is going to be good. I don't know what the volume is going to be, but I do think they're both going to be trustworthy fantasy assets. Richardson is going to be great. It just, we saw it with Justin Fields last year. I think you can expect that type of running this year from Richardson. So they've got a solid set of core of fantasy assets. Atlanta, I like everything they're doing. They're going to run the ball a lot. I hated that they drafted Bijan Robinson because Tyler Algier had a great year. But, Algier's job now is to make Bijan better. And I think he's going to do that. But Bijan's the man there, no doubt about it. Kyle Pitts, Mac Hollins, and Drake London, 2 of those 3 are substantially high value assets. and I like for fantasy what they bring to the table. The Bears, I probably have them too high based on Justin Fields finishing as high as he did last year. I like Darnell Mooney as a wide receiver. They got DJ Moore. Khalil Herbert flashed. Deontay Foreman, he's one of those I can't quit you, man, players for me. It seems like I keep grabbing him. But they drafted Roschon Johnson, who physically profiles like Deontay Foreman, but his game profiles a little bit more as a pass receiving back. So we'll see what happens there. They got Cole Kmet. It seems like everybody wants to get on him year after year. I don't trust his hands. So I probably have misranked the Bears. I've got the Vikings in at 17. I know they let Dalvin Cook go, but they've got Justin Jefferson. They've got TJ Hawkinson. This year, they've got Kirk Cousins, who knows how to get the ball to those guys. I think Madison, Chandler, and McBride will fill in admirably at the running back position. It may get a little confusing, so that may not necessarily be a backfield you're drafting high. Got the Steelers at 16. I think Najee Harris is going to bounce back. I like Pickens and Deontay Johnson, Pat Freiermuth. Everything is set up for Kenny Pickett, to be a good fantasy asset. He doesn't have the raw ability to elevate a team, but you give him a set of weapons like this and some protection, and he can do some good stuff with the football. New York Giants at 15. If they just had solved their wide receiver position, they would be so much higher. Barkley is Saquon Barkley. Daniel Jones. I heard Garrett Price last night. I think one of his bold predictions on the Better Sports Network was Daniel Jones QB1. So second year with the offensive coordinator, head coach, and quarterback all together. He took a huge leap in year one with them. They traded for Darren Waller. They've got some receivers. We have to see how it shakes out. The Jets. Will Breece Hall, can he come back this year and be healthy and be productive? Will it end up being, fill-ins of Michael Carter, Isaiah Bennett, Donovan Knight? Great question. They've got Garrett Wilson. Tyler Conklin looks to be the move tight end. They brought in some other Packers to fill in for Aaron Rodgers. I like the team. I'm just not 100% sure that it gels here in year one. 13, I've got the Browns. I'm expecting Deshaun Watson to take another step to get closer to his pre-suspension form. Amari Cooper, will he be wide receiver 10 again this year? Probably coming in a little bit lower, but they did add Elijah Moore. David Njoku is primed for a great year. Nick Chubb, will this finally be the year that he catches some passes? It seems like it. Seems like it's setting up that way. Got some great weapons there. Number 12, the Broncos. There's talk Cortland Sutton is going to be the Mike Thomas of the Denver Broncos. I like that. I like it a lot. Javonte Williams, I expect him to start slow this year. Russ is going to bounce back. Judy, Tim Patrick and Greg Dulcich all provide excellent receiving depth, all usable players for fantasy. And at number 11, I've got the Chargers. It was hard. We're getting up here. We talked a little bit. Matt mentioned Desmond Ridder. He doesn't view him as a franchise quarterback. And my initial thought was probably 2/3 of the league doesn't have a franchise quarterback. So that's okay. Well, the Chargers have a franchise quarterback. They've got an aging running back in Austin Eckler, who's still very productive. It looks like Josh Palmer is the heir to Keenan Allen, and Quentin Johnson is the heir to Mike Williams. So they seem to be set up to just run it back with new players in the same position. I like what they're doing. Let's see how health and youth shake this thing out in Los Angeles.
So at my 20, I have the Bears. I think they're building in the right direction. They've made some moves on offense to help Justin Fields. They've tried to improve the offensive line. They've improved the wide receiver core. Defense is getting a little bit better. So I don't think they're a great team down here at 20. They're moving in the right direction. At 19, I have the Giants. It's an interesting team. I think they overperformed last year, and I think we saw that once they got into the playoffs and got beat pretty handedly. I think they come back to earth a little bit more this year. I don't know that Daniel Jones is the answer. We don't know what's going on with Saquon Barkley. It's an okay offensive line. Defense has some interesting pieces. At 18, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. I thought about moving them higher because I really like what they did in the draft and in free agency this year, improving that offensive line. They always have a really good defense. Mike Tomlin, an incredible coaching record and never falling below 500. Probably going to do that again this year, even in a tough AFC North. Kenny Pickett worries me a little bit. I think that this whole team is going to hinge on whether or not he can take the step forward I think the Steelers want him to take. 17, I have the Seahawks. I mean, look, Pete Carroll's had one bad year as a Seahawks head coach. Like, I think we have to give them their due, even with a defense that I think is okay at best. An offense that has great pieces and at times was really good. But they had I don't know that I believe Geno Smith is the answer, but he deserved the contract that he got to get another shot with what he did last year. If he does it again, the Seahawks are going to be a very good team. I think they're a middle-of-the-road team, which is why I have them right here in 17. I think the next couple teams all mixed together, you could interchange depending on how you feel about their assets. 16 for me is the Vikings. Good offense, good offensive head coach. Defense is, as the kids would say, mid. Like, it's not a great defense, but you got Justin Jefferson. We'll see what happens with Alexander Madison, Dwayne McBride, and the running backfield now with Dalvin Cook gone. They still have an amazing offense. I think Jordan Addison's really going to help out that offense at the wide receiver. We'll see Kirk Cousins sticks around, but since it's just for the 2023 season, I think they've got a chance to be really good. 15 for me is the New York Jets. Great offense. Really good defense and a good offense. I think is going to take a step forward now with Aaron Rodgers. Jaguars for me at 14 took a big step forward now last year. I want to see it happen again this year before I really vault them up, but they looked really good last year. Want to see them put it together 2 years in a row. 13 for me is the Indianapolis Colts. They've got everything. The only question we really had about them was a starting quarterback, and I believe Anthony Richardson is that guy. They probably deserve to be higher, but I'm going to put them here at 13 because the other teams ahead of them have proven a little bit more. 12 for me is the Browns. Really good all-around team. Can Deshaun Watson take that step forward? I think that he can. They come at 12 here for me. And then 11 is the Denver Broncos. Same thing. Realistically, I think 12 through about 5 for me are interchangeable. The Broncos, really good team, but they're in a very tough division. And again, betting on Russ Wilson taking that step forward, which is a little iffy at the moment. I think he will, but I think you can ask yourself, is he going to?
Yeah, 20 for me. I have the Buccaneers. I think they have a really good roster. They have questions. It was really hard for me deciding which of the NFC South teams I felt the most comfortable betting on. 19, I have the Minnesota Vikings. I thought they were kind of paper tigers last year. They're another team. They feel like they're caught between continuing to try to compete, though I don't think they have what it takes to win a championship and needing to rebuild. I'll be curious to see if they move on from Cousins at the end of this season now that they've moved on from Cook and seem to be letting some other things go. 18, the Chicago Bears. I think they're an up-and-coming team. I think they're going to contend for the playoffs this year. I like their roster. I think they're poised to take a step forward. I don't know if they're totally there yet, but I like what they're doing. 16 and 17 for me, I have the Patriots and Steelers, two teams that have some pieces, probably don't have enough pieces, but they have these veteran coaches that seemingly will them. Pittsburgh last year, I thought there was no chance they continue Tomlin's streak of never having a losing season. And there they were at 9-8 at the end of last year. I kind of feel the same way with New England. I don't think they're flashy. I think you'll get to the end of the season, you'll be like, how did they win 8 games? They're probably the worst team in their division now, which is more of a testament to what the rest of the NFC East has done than to any huge failing on their part. 15, I have the New York Giants. I think they're going to be hanging around kind of as a wild card candidate again, probably similar to where they were last year. I don't think they made huge improvements on their team, but I don't think they made any huge fallbacks either, unless Daniel Jones completely regresses. But I really like what Daboll was doing there. 14, I have the Jets. I know everybody got excited. They have a good young group of players. I'm still not sure what we get from Aaron Rodgers. I think they're still no better than the third best team in their own division. So I have them there. I think they'll be a fringe playoff contender. I'm with you guys on the Browns. I have them at 13. I think that we're going to see a better performance. They actually, if they probably would have gotten more games from Watson last year, they would have been hanging around in that playoff contending. I think they made some good moves this offseason. Number 12, the Lions. I'm excited to see them play this year. Maybe I'm a little too low on them. I think they have a great chance of winning their division. I think they'll take a couple more steps forward. But I don't think it's a cakewalk. And I don't think we can completely write off some of the other teams there right away. Number 11, I have the Denver Broncos. I really think coaching was a big part of the Broncos' problem last year. The couple of games, once they relieved Nathaniel Hackett, they looked like a completely different team. I'm hoping that carries forward. They have a pretty talented roster. I like Sean Payton, but you're right. It all hinges on Russell Wilson. He looked demonstrably better the last two games once Hackett was gone. If that was the problem, then we're in good shape. If that really wasn't the problem and he just had two good games, then, Denver could fall off real hard. They are still in a murderous division too. Sometimes I wonder if I'm still a little too high on the AFC West. We thought all those teams had a chance to make the playoffs last year, and it was a real struggle. I have to get out of here in a couple minutes, so I'm going to lead off with my top 10 before you guys do yours. I have the Chargers at 10. Curious to see what Kellen Moore does with that offense. I think they have all the pieces. I have to admit, I'm still not totally sold on Brandon Staley. I feel like they should have been better the last couple of years. Number 9, I have the Ravens. I love their coach. I think if they can get Lamar to be more healthy, that's going to be a big step forward to them. They at least did try to improve the weapons, so that's encouraging. Number 8, I have the Bills. Maybe I'm too low. I love the Bills. I have wanted them to be a potential Super Bowl contender the last couple of years. They just haven't managed to get it done. And I think that some of the other teams are surpassing them both in the conference and even in their own division. 7, I have the Dallas Cowboys. I think they're still pretty solid. They have some good pieces. Be curious to see what their offense is like, making a big change. 6, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars. They were one of the most exciting teams to watch last year. I think they continue take another step forward. They to me feel like they're head and shoulders better than the rest of the teams in their division. Number 5, I have the Miami Dolphins. Maybe I'm too high. I think the Dolphins, had they had better health from their quarterback, had a legitimate chance to win their division last year and make some kind of a playoff run. I think we see that this year. Number 4, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. I love the Chiefs. They're the reigning. I don't love the Chiefs because I'm a Broncos fan. I respect the Chiefs because they are the reigning Super Bowl champions, but I think they have a few holes in their roster. And I don't know if they're quite as good as the one AFC team I have above them. 3, I have the San Francisco 49ers. Their biggest question has always been being able to stay healthy and at the quarterback position. I think they have one of the most talented rosters in the NFL. Number 2, the Eagles. I see no reason why they won't be a strong contender to return to the Super Bowl. But number 1 for me, the Cincinnati Bengals. I think they were really an ascending team toward the end of last year. I've been impressed with what they've done, with what their coach has done, with the roster they've built. They have some holes to fill from some players they lost on defense, but I'm excited to see what they do. And I think right now, they are my pick to come out of the AFC to the Super Bowl. So that is the rest of my teams. And I'm going to bow out. I'll let Matt take over from here.
All right. Well, have a good weekend. We'll see you again on Monday. So for my 10 through 1, I had the Dolphins at 10. I think they're a very good team, very good, specifically on offense and a decent defense. I would not be surprised if they challenge the Bills for the AFC East this year. Tua was having a really good year before he ended up getting injured. 9 for me, the Cowboys. I think that they have a arguably one of the better teams in the NFC. My biggest question is really just the wide receiver core. It's not good. I mean, you have an absolute stud in CeeDee Lamb, but then the rest of it is just kind of like a hodgepodge of pieces. If Brandon Cooks can be what Brandon Cooks has been, then I think this wide receiver room is going to be just fine. But he's getting up there in age. I kind of need to see it. But overall, still a very, very good team. If they didn't have the Eagles in their division, I think they would be the easy runaways in that division. At 8 for me is the Detroit Lions, and I don't think I'd have had them this high last year. But what Dan Campbell was able to do with this team, kind of putting it all together last year with, I would argue, a good offense, but a subpar defense. They've made some interesting moves this offseason, even with the loss of Jameson Williams to the betting stuff. I still think this offense is going to be very good. I think the defense is. It helps that Green Bay has kind of taken a step back. I think the Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Vikings are going to be the challengers in this division. Another year under Dan Campbell, this Ben Johnson offense, which I thought just was phenomenal last year. So now you get everybody back in this new system. You improve, I shouldn't say improve the running back room, but adding a Jahmyr Gibbs, who, if he stays healthy, is at least some sort of step up from DeAndre Swift. Love DeAndre Swift, but he just wasn't able to stay out there. I think that the Detroit Lions are going to be a very scary team in the NFC this year. Number 7 for me is the Chargers, and Matt touched on it. Really, my only question about this team is Brandon Staley. That they have all the pieces. Honestly, they've had all the pieces for like 3 years, but they just couldn't stay healthy on defense and offense. If they can stay healthy, and if Brandon Staley can just show us something, why they hired this dude, I think that the Chargers are going to be a very good team. 6 for me is the Baltimore Ravens. Bring Lamar back. They've made a lot of really good moves. They've improved that wide receiver core. I think the hiring of Todd Monken is going to be key for this offense. They should have a phenomenal season on offense. And we know the defense is probably, that secondary is still bad, but I think overall they'll be a very good team and challenge in a tough AFC North. I got 3 AFC North teams in my top 12, which is just, it's ridiculous. The Chiefs come in here. I'm sorry, the Bills come in at 5. Really good team. For a team that's led by a defensive head coach, though, the defense has let them down a lot. And I would not be surprised if going into this season, if we don't see the Bills dominating, and I mean dominating, I mean winning the AFC East easily, I wonder if we don't see Sean McDermott on the hot seat. He's been there for a long time, and we've heard sometimes that just the speeches and everything just kind of just fades out. It's almost like white noise for the players. And I wonder if maybe it's that time where, granted, Jeff Fisher was not as successful as Sean McDermott has been, but it's one of those things where they move on from him and they bring in another head coach. And then that next year they're like competing again for a Super Bowl, which the Bills have been there. They haven't been able to take that final leap. And I get you're playing against a guy like Patrick Mahomes, but I don't think it's unfair to say that the Bills had a better team last year and they could not get it done. Then at 4 for me is the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's solely Patrick Mahomes. I mean, this dude is just ridiculous, but I think they still need to make some improvements on defense. 3 is the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow, this offense, phenomenal. The defense has gotten better every single year. That first year with Zach Taylor was okay. The Super Bowl run year, it was okay again, kind of getting good. Last year was a good defense, and I think with them continuing to improve on that, Zach Taylor, I think is from a guy who, after a couple of years, we were all talking about probably being fired. I think he's moved his way into one of the better head coaches in the league. And this offense, with the way that they are set up, should be, just challenging. And I wanted to put them 2, but I felt like that was sliding the San Francisco 49ers, even though I only put them up 1 spot. Like, I wanted to put the Bengals here, but I think the 49ers arguably are the best team in the NFC. And the only reason I didn't put them at 1 is because of what Philly did last year. I think Philly deserved the respect to be there. I thought they were the best team all year. Didn't work out for them in the Super Bowl. They're pretty much bringing everybody back. They have not lost much. I think the Eagles are going to be phenomenal, so that's why they're at 1. The 49ers are just a really, really good team, and I think you could argue the main thing that's held them back the past couple of years is Jimmy Garoppolo's injuries and them having to throw in 4 or 5 quarterbacks. Now, that's a massive question for them still. Will it be Brock Purdy? Is it going to be Trey Lance? We know it's now at least not going to be Sam Darnold, but I believe in Kyle Shanahan and the way that he runs this offense. The defense has just been phenomenal. Maybe it won't be with the loss of DeMeco Ryans. That is one thing I am concerned about, but they've got the pieces on that defense to be absolutely incredible again. So they're my number 2 team, Eagles number 1.
All right. So I've got the Ravens at 10. It's Lamar Jackson, J.K. Dobbins, Mark Andrews. I don't know who to count on in the receiving game. Would it be great if it's Odell? Sure, it would be fantastic. Would it be great if it's Bateman? Bateman's already getting injections in his foot. I think we can start to write Bateman off as an injury bust. It's hard to call somebody a bust. You never want to do that. But, if he's not getting on the field because he's got these injuries he just can't shake, it is what it is. I've got the Lions at 9. I wanted to be the highest on the Lions. I just couldn't bring myself to move them up. They've got Amon-Ra, but the tight end is a rookie and some nobodies. Their second receiver is suspended for 6 games. And as much as we're projecting greatness for Jameson Williams, it's still a projection. Josh Reynolds, he's a journeyman. Marvin Jones, he's a journeyman. They've got some depth at receiver, but it's not guys you want to count on a lot for fantasy. I love the signing of David Montgomery. It wouldn't surprise me if Montgomery is a top 6 back this year. I think he's behind the best line he's had in his entire career. He's still got great lateral movement. He's going to break off chunks, 6, 8, 10, 12-yard chunks. He's not going to get out in the open field and run away from people. He's still a good pass-catching back that's good in pass protection. I think Gibbs is going to get his. I don't think he's going to get much of it on the ground. I think he's going to catch a substantial number of passes. And Goff produces in this offense. As a Lions fan, I hope they can figure out a way for Ben Johnson to stay next year and keep staying. But I've got the Lions at 9. Dolphins at 8. They've got arguably the top duo of wide receivers. I mean, I suppose if you're making that argument over Chase and Higgins, or Smith and Brown, I think it just depends on what part of the country you live in. But those are 2 phenomenal wide receivers in Waddle and Hill. But let's face it, the tight end is going to be primarily a blocking position. It's not going to be fantasy relevant. Yes, I know they brought back their entire offensive backfield that were free agents. They basically have 4 of the same guy, and they're just whoever's healthy is getting the playing time. We'll see what happens if they bring in Dalvin Cook. Could be a completely different beast if he's there getting consistent touches. Tua is great. He's the perfect quarterback for that offense. You hate to bet on somebody getting injured, so I didn't. I think him and Hill and Waddle are going to be super productive again. The Cowboys, I like Brandon Cooks at this stage of his career. He's 29, going to be 30. He had a down year last year in Houston, his other down year in 2019. But outside of that, he's been wide receiver 20, wide receiver 16, 13, 7, 8, 12, 57 in his rookie year. So I expect him to get back on track in Dallas in a fairly high volume passing offense. No, he's not going to take touches away from CeeDee Lamb. Michael Gallup is a really good 3rd wide receiver. He'll be back in that role. I think that as a trio, it's a really good trio. I don't know what to expect from tight end. Jake Ferguson looked good last year. Luke Schoonmaker is more athletic. We'll see who gets the touches. But Dak Prescott, Tony Pollard, I think they're going to re-sign Zeke as the backup to Pollard. The moves they made kind of tell me that they're basically said to Zeke, look, we want you back. Here's what we're willing to pay. If you get a better deal, go for it. But it doesn't look like he's going to get it. At number 5, I've got the Bills. Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen. For fantasy, probably they should be behind the Cowboys just on the sheer number of viable fantasy assets. Maybe Damian Harris bounces back, gets enough touches to be relevant. I've never been big on James Cook. I like Gabe Davis's talent. Hopefully last year was a result of the injury. He could have a great season this year. Them and the Bears are probably two teams I've misranked. I've got the Chiefs at 4. It's Mahomes. It's Kelsey. And then what do we do? Is it Pacheco or McKinnon? How's the game going? Is it a blowout? Oh, it's Pacheco. Do they need to pass a lot? Oh, it's McKinnon. Kadarius Toney scares the shit out of me. Electric or completely, he's literally the power grid. He's either all on or all off. That may be my new nickname for him, the power grid. Sky Moore, maybe it seems like year 2 is when receivers take the step in an Andy Reid offense. So maybe Moore bounces back. MVS is who we think he is, but this number 4 ranking is on the shoulders of Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. I've got the Niners at 3. Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and honestly, several backups that can fill in if any one of them is missing. They make those quarterbacks, if they execute the offense, look like world beaters. I mean, Brock Purdy was the last pick in the draft for a reason. He's a product of the offense, and it is what it is. I'll be a system quarterback all the way to the freaking bank. So, but, it looks like maybe they've traded in Jimmy G's injuries for Trey Lance and Brock Purdy's injuries. I'm not sold that Darnold doesn't start games this year unless they cut him, and I haven't heard about it. He seems to be the healthiest of the 3 right now. At number 2, I've got the Bengals. Burrow's great. I love Chase and Higgins. Mixon, he's clearly in decline, not an efficient back, but they know who he is, how they want to use him. I don't think Chase Brown is near the threat to him that Samaje Perine is. I mean, Perine was a threat because he's good in the passing game. He can block. He knows the offense. And Chase Brown's weakness is pass blocking. I don't get the whole, well, we're not going to play Mixon because Perine's a better pass blocking back and he'll keep our quarterback upright. And then you replace Perine with a back that's worse than Mixon at pass blocking. So maybe Chris Evans or Travion Henderson finally become something. I doubt it. Irv Smith, will he finally break out at tight end? I don't know. It's Burrow, it's Higgins, it's Chase. And if Tyler Boyd was on the Chiefs, is he the best receiver there?
Probably.
Yeah.
I think Sky Moore has a chance to be good, but he hasn't shown.
He has a chance. But based on their histories, Tyler Boyd is the best receiver in Kansas City if that's where he is. So I love their trio of wide receivers. But I have Philadelphia at number 1. There's some questions at the running back spot, but they have Jalen Hurts at the quarterback who can make up for that, much like Josh Allen. They have 2 outstanding wide receivers and a tight end. I think, if you want to say, Dennis, your argument about Josh Allen is the same argument you're making for Jalen Hurts. All right, I get that. Hurts just has a lot better surrounding cast, a lot more weapons. It's really 1A and 1B with Philadelphia and Cincinnati. I have no qualms with anybody putting the Bengals at number 1.
All right, so we'll recap our 32 through 1s really quick, and then we'll get out of here. I'll read Matt's for you guys as he had to leave a little bit early. It was the Arizona Cardinals, the Houston Texans, Green Bay Packers, Washington Commanders, Tennessee Titans, Indianapolis Colts, Carolina Panthers, Los Angeles Rams, Seattle Seahawks, the Las Vegas Raiders, the New Orleans Saints, the Atlanta Falcons, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were his 32 through 20. His 19 through 1, the Minnesota Vikings, Chicago Bears, Pittsburgh Steelers, New England Patriots, the New York Giants, New York Jets, Cleveland Browns, Detroit Lions, Denver Broncos, Los Angeles Chargers, Baltimore Ravens, Buffalo Bills, Dallas Cowboys, Jacksonville Jaguars, Miami Dolphins, Kansas City Chiefs, San Francisco 49ers, Philadelphia Eagles, and the Cincinnati Bengals at the 1. My 32 through 20, the Arizona Cardinals, Houston Texans, the Los Angeles Rams, New Orleans Saints, Washington Commanders, Las Vegas Raiders, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tennessee Titans, Green Bay Packers, Atlanta Falcons, Carolina Panthers, New England Patriots, and then the Chicago Bears at 20. My 19 through 10, the New York Giants, Pittsburgh Steelers, Seattle Seahawks, Minnesota Vikings, New York Jets, Jacksonville Jaguars, Indianapolis Colts, Cleveland Browns, Denver Broncos, and the Miami Dolphins at 10. My 9 through 1, the Dallas Cowboys, Detroit Lions, Los Angeles Chargers, Baltimore Ravens, Buffalo Bills, Kansas City Chiefs, Cincinnati Bengals, San Francisco 49ers, and then the Philadelphia Eagles in the 1 spot.
I have Arizona at 32, Houston 31, Tennessee 30, Los Angeles Rams, Carolina Panthers, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, New England Patriots at 26, Las Vegas Raiders at 25, New Orleans Saints, Washington Commanders, Green Bay Packers, Seattle Seahawks, Indianapolis Colts at 20, Atlanta Falcons at 19, Chicago Bears, Minnesota Vikings, Pittsburgh Steelers, New York Giants, New York Jets, Cleveland Browns, Denver Broncos, Los Angeles Chargers at 11. My top 10, the Baltimore Ravens, Detroit Lions, Miami Dolphins, Jacksonville Jaguars. Oh, did I miss them when I was talking about them? I think I did. Skipped right over them. Dallas Cowboys, Buffalo Bills, Kansas City Chiefs at 4, Niners at 3, Bengals at 1A, and Eagles at 1, or Bengals at 1B, Eagles at 1A.
All right, so those are our 32 through 1 power rankings. We will be back on Monday to go over the AFC West. I don't know if we're doing the whole division or not, but I believe we are. I'm not 100% sure. So you have to tune in on Monday and join us. Dennis, if you're listening to this right now as you're mowing the lawn or taking the dog on a walk, what should you do as soon as you get a second?
You should hit that subscribe button. Give us that follow, download, listen. Give us a 5-star rating and a review. Tell us how we're doing. Tell me I'm handsome because I'm old and I need the confirmation. But yeah, definitely subscribe, rate, review.
All right, everybody, have yourselves a great weekend. Dennis, happy Father's Day. And to all the other fathers who are out there listening, either before or after Father's Day, congratulations. Hope you have a wonderful day. Hopefully you don't have to do too much work. You're able to sit down and relax. Have a happy Father's Day, and we'll talk to you guys again on Monday.
To you.